Hey everyone, I'm Manar Mohawish, Editor-in-Chief of Mint Press, and I will be your host. Welcome to Mintcasts, our Mint Press video podcast series. Today I'll be interviewing American journalist Joe Catron, who has been stationed in Gaza since 2011. If you haven't been following his work, now is the time. Since Israel has launched its military offensive dubbed Operation Protective Edge about a month ago, Catron has unapologetically been speaking out about the realities on the ground in Gaza. This past weekend, a second UN-run shelter was struck by Israel, killing about 10 people, including medics and children. Now, the death toll in Gaza has hit about 2,000 civilians, with over 8,000 wounded and about 10,000 civilian homes destroyed. The international community has expressed outrage over the mounting civilian casualties, with many referring to the assault on Gaza as a massacre. In addition to this, it was recently discovered that Israel is using banned dime weapons that emit micro-shrapnel and flèche shells, which release thousands of lethal metal darts in the air. The death toll in Gaza is so high that dead bodies have been piling up on the floors of morgues, and many have been stored in freezers. Now, according to Israeli officials, 64 IDF soldiers have been killed, plus 3 civilians. Now, today, it's mission accomplished for Israel as it pulls its troop out of Gaza. The big caveat, though, is that Israel has annexed a 4-mile buffer zone around the Gaza border, which is being criticized as yet another land grab, similar to Israel's tactic in 1967, where the Jewish state annexed areas to grab land in the West Bank and the Golan Heights. Now, Joe, I'd like to start by asking you, what has this war meant to Gazans? Is it over for them?
Well, I don't think anyone here assumes at this point that it's over. Israel has temporarily withdrawn its forces from the core of the Gaza Strip and called a 72-hour halt to its attacks. But that doesn't necessarily indicate what we can expect to come next. At the moment, things are quiet here because of the temporary ceasefire. People have been walking around, buying supplies, in many cases enjoying themselves in a way that no one has been able to for weeks. But what will happen next is undetermined and based on a number of factors. I don't think anyone here is assuming that it's over at the moment.
Do you think that, considering this 4-mile buffer zone that's been annexed, do you think that, not, even though that Israel has now admitted that the 3 Israeli teens were never kidnapped by Hamas, which is what initiated this whole conflict, do you think that this was about another land grab?
I think that was certainly part of their operational goals that emerged over the course of the offensive. How much that's what they had in mind at the beginning, I can't say. But as you mentioned, they've seized a huge portion of the Gaza Strip. In many cases, their barrages of artillery have rendered it unfit for habitation for years to come. I know the United Nations has estimated that rebuilding will take 30 years under good circumstances in the absence of the siege, with the ability to import materials. So, I can't tell you how much this was what they had in mind coming in, but it's certainly something that they've done while they were here. And it's hard to imagine that they didn't see that as somehow advantageous, carving out yet another part of Palestinian land that's inaccessible to or unusable by Palestinians.
I've read this morning that the damage to Gaza is estimated to cost over $5 billion. How do Gazans plan on rebuilding themselves after this devastation?
I don't know that there's been that much thought given to it locally just yet. I'm sure discussion has begun, but at the moment the public discourse is still very focused on casualties, on bodies, or perhaps in some cases survivors in areas that rescue crews have not yet been able to reach. What's going to be done in terms of dealing with physical damages, with rebuilding? Of course, those are conversations that will take place at some point, but they haven't really broken into the open here yet. Of course, a big part of the Palestinian approach to this has been the siege, ending the siege as one goal of Palestinian resistance to the offensive. And I think the damage that has been done obviously only increases or highlights the importance of that. I don't think anyone sees how it would be possible to rebuild, to dig out of this hole Israel has cast the Gaza Strip into without the ability to freely import construction materials and also to have a viable economy through exports.
Right. And let's talk about the siege. I mean, that's what Gazans have been wanting in the first place, is just really just to lift the siege. Tell me about how Gazans have been surviving at this point with the siege not being lifted.
Well, at the moment, Gaza's economy, such as it is reliant almost entirely on international aid, which does come in. It's not sufficient. It doesn't maintain the standard quality of life most would like. But beyond that, many here would see it as simply a matter of self-determination of the rights to which they're entitled to import and export and travel freely, to have a viable economy on Palestinian terms, not those decided by an occupier in discussions with international agencies, however well intentioned.
And I know that water and electricity has been cut off from Gazans, leaving them with only 2 hours a day. I remember talking to you about this yesterday. And speaking of the siege, how are people surviving at this point?
Not well. Many are reliant in terms of water on aid in many neighborhoods. A number of agencies, both local and international, are distributing emergency water supplies in bottles or from tankers on trucks. So at the moment, there's a lot of reliance on that. In terms of electricity, people are simply getting by as well as they can. Some are able to leave their homes for an hour or two a day to charge a few essential things, their cell phones, laptops perhaps. But obviously there's not much that can be done on that front until some kind of electrical supply is returned to the Gaza Strip. In the future, that will obviously mean rebuilding both the power plant that was bombed and electrical infrastructure that's been destroyed, but that's all a long ways in the future, unfortunately.
And you mentioned a little bit ago about the, really at this point, it's the devastation of the high death toll. I know that it's been reported that a lot of the bodies have been piling up at morgues and they're now being stored in freezers. Tell me more about that.
Certainly. I'm currently at Al-Shifa Hospital, the largest in Gaza, which is also the site of its largest morgue. They've been able to deal with the challenges of the massive number of bodies coming in a little better over the past few days. There have been some points during the major massacres here where it was simply overflowing. I think many of us have now seen the pictures of ice cream freezers, which have been converted since there's no ice cream coming into the Gaza Strip now. They're being used to store bodies because the normal refrigeration units are simply full. Additionally, there are challenges burying them. Many of the graveyards here, since this incident began, have filled. There's simply no more room in them. So people are in some cases converting empty lands to makeshift cemeteries as quickly as they can, because up until today it wasn't safe to spend time in those sorts of open areas. So it's one of the less discussed challenges, but it's certainly a very real one.
And Moshe Feiglin, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, the deputy speaker of the Knesset, Israel's parliament, has published a plan for the total destruction of the Palestinian people in Gaza. In the last 3 weeks, several Israeli politicians have called on an actual genocide, and that's not mincing words. They have called for genocide of the Palestinians. In fact, called for Palestinians in Gaza to be placed in concentration camps. Do you see what had happened in Gaza in the last 3 weeks a reflection of those statements?
I think they certainly reflect a common sentiment among Israeli elected officials in the Israeli political discourse. At this point, Israel has managed to carve out a niche for itself as a country that's both immune to the normal expectations which other states are held, and largely impervious to the basic humanitarian considerations which most governments in the world will at least give lip service. It's been a very long time since I've heard these kinds of explicit calls for ethnic cleansing coming from any government, certainly one that's held in such high esteem by our governments in the West. Something that's very strange. And I think our government's complete lack of interest in holding Israel to any kind of accountability will what's created the space for this discourse to emerge and become as prevalent as it has.
And as an American living in Gaza who's speaking up about the realities on the ground, what do you want to leave our readers and viewers with who are watching this all unfold?
Well, I think right now, in terms of the current situation, this exact moment in history, the most valuable thing anyone can do is try to cut through the rhetoric and simply look at the facts. On one side, we have clear massacres of civilians, thousands of them being killed in their homes, schools, marketplaces, shelters the United Nations provided for them. And on the other hand, we see small resistance forces targeting enemy soldiers in full accordance with international law. I don't think it's terribly difficult to figure out who has the better claim to legitimacy under these circumstances. In fact, I think it's quite clear.
And lastly, do you see this ceasefire as lasting? I know I kind of started with that in the very beginning, but do you see this ceasefire as lasting, and will the siege be lifted? What do you think?
You know, I'm usually pretty good at giving projections about what's going to happen next. I think I'm one of the good ones. But right now, I have very little idea. It's what everyone has been discussing here today, of course. Everyone has some different notion of what's going to happen next. I think everything is possible, and what does happen will be a result of a number of factors, the foremost of which was probably the international pressure that Israel faces. I think the resounding global condemnation of its slaughter of Palestinian civilians here is what has brought it to the table and forced it to make small concessions it already has. Whether it will continue to happen by fulfilling its basic obligations as an occupier, for example, by lifting the siege on the case of Palestinian demands, that will depend on what is said and the kind of real, meaningful opposition to its policies facing the rest of the world.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Joe, for joining me today, and stay safe. I hope that means something. You can find this podcast through our Mint Press iTunes channel and on our website. But the conversation is far from over, as we'd like to hear from our readers and listeners about the violence in Gaza. And if you think that the ceasefire will last and if Israel will lift the siege on Gaza, excuse me. You can also post on our Facebook page in our comments section to our pinned post featuring this podcast. Make sure to like this video on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for more Mintcasts interviews. Thank you so much for listening.